Hello, my name is Richard Haight. I'd like to address a few questions that I got about about the collapse of the pillars of mankind. And the pillars of mankind are society, ecology, economy. And so I have received a number of emails discussing this, and just for reference, I talk about this in The Unbound Soul, as well as The Psychedelic Path, in some depth, about the coming collapse of society, or certainly that possibility, in the various extremes to which it could occur. But I also talk about a way out. Oh, sorry, a way out is not the right way, but a way that we could navigate this apocalypse which we're in now. Again, apocalypse, I describe that as the breaking down of false structures to reveal that which is fundamental. But there is a way which would allow some version of what we have as society now, civilization now, to continue without mass die-offs, without incredible suffering that is looming. I haven't talked much about this, even to my own students, direct students. I have to talk about it now because we really are, in a way, on the precipice. Oftentimes people don't understand, and I think this will be obvious to some of you, to maybe too many, and maybe not to others. Maybe it's not obvious to many of us. The last barrier, the last useful structure that is holding back, or at least slowing the collapse process. Fast versus slow, I don't know which would be better, but is your freedom of speech. And if you look at what's happening in the world now, freedom of speech is being equated with corruption. It's not to say that what everybody says is coming from a place of virtue. However, when freedom of speech is gone, you will not be able to speak honestly from the position of the deepest, most fundamental place within, which actually sees and perceives corruption. Awakened individuals necessarily become the enemy of the state, the enemy of the society and of the people, because your very presence reveals the corruption around you. It's like a light shining in the darkness. So, in what way can you move forward in the awakening process if you can't speak freely? You would just simply become a martyr. You would simply be killed if you speak openly and honestly. And the awakened one does speak openly and honestly, or find some means to express it. Be very careful of accepting the narrative that free speech is a racist principle, that free speech is what supports hate. Free speech is just free speech. It doesn't have a preference. But without free speech, you will not be able to speak honestly, with integrity. Free speech protects your path of awakening. There's a reason right now why more people on the planet are moving towards awakening than have ever before. And it's because of the structure of free speech that has allowed for this process of and this search to sort of evolve over a period of several hundred years to a point where now there's a large population that are hungry for awakening. Once free speech is gone, books like mine will not be acceptable anymore. Not because there's any hate in my books, but because my books ask questions and they direct you towards embracing curiosity and asking questions. And questions are not permissible in a society built on ideology, in a society built upon uniform ideology, which is what we're moving toward. If you do not accept the popular view, you will be ostracized, at some point possibly imprisoned or even killed. Sounds extreme, but this is where we're heading very rapidly. If you don't see it, it's because you're not looking. If you want to support your own process of awakening, support people that support free speech. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say, but if they're supporting free speech, support them. You know, donate to them if you have to. Find somebody, anybody that's out there that's speaking a message that at least sort of resonates with you, that supports free speech and is vociferous about it. And donate some money to them so they can continue to spread that message in a powerful way. Spread that message yourself if you've gone beyond fear sufficiently to do so. But do something to support free speech, because if you don't, you have deplatformed the deepest place within you. The only thing that will lead you out of fear. If you deplatform that, the awakening process is just a hobby for you. It's just another story amongst the many stories of your life that have caused suffering. It's just entertainment. It's wistful thinking. It doesn't matter if it's $1, it's $10, $100, or $10,000. Do something to support the most fundamental place within, because that fundamental thing within has to express in your life and around you in order for its transformative power to transform this body, this mind, in order for that awakening process to occur. Support that by supporting free speech. This is not a political, it seems like a political debate. It is because it's gone into the political realm, but it goes much deeper than politics. And to look at it purely as a political stance is to misunderstand the connection between that most fundamental and expression itself, because the most fundamental expresses through this body to express in the world. It's like a candle that's supposed to shine. You know, Jesus talked about putting a candle under the table. It makes no sense. A candle is put on the table so its light shines out to the world. If free speech is not possible, when you speak, you go to prison. Because what you say will be offensive to many people, even though it's coming from love. Because you're telling them the answer is within you. Start unraveling your own the corruption within. A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to admit that there's corruption within. That's the only way. That's the only way that has ever been. The only way that's ever been. There are no wallflowers in the awakening process. You got to get out on the dance floor and dance. And so if you're unwilling to speak freely, if you're unwilling to question the things within you freely, you've deplatformed the most fundamental thing within, that which you claimed to have valued. You've deplatformed unconditioned love. You've deplatformed isness within your own body. So if you're unwilling to speak, but you would still like to support free speech so that at some point you could be inspired and to develop the capacity to reveal, the capacity to express freely, it might take a while for you to find that courage. It did me. It took a while. Then you support others who do. Make your donations. $1, $10, $100, $10,000. Find somebody who's representing something fundamental that you do agree with. You don't have to agree with them 100%. Of course, you should at least feel that they're coming from an authentic place, and and not feel they're coming from some kind of malice. But support these people that are putting it out there, that are taking big risks to defend the legal right to free speech. Discard the comments about hate speech. There's this backlash against free speech, that free speech allows hate speech. Well, of course it allows hate speech. You cannot exterminate evil. Because as soon as speech is gone, evil will run rampant. Because integrity no longer is. It can no longer express in the world once free speech is gone. It won't be hate speech, it will be hate action at that point. It will be to eliminate anybody who thinks outside the box, anybody who doesn't follow the party line. So when people talk hate speech, that's a distraction. Now, it doesn't mean that they mean wrong. They might not understand. They might not make the connection between the ideology that speaks against hate speech. I don't say hateful things. I don't think it's helpful, or it's completely corrupting internally to do so. The problem with hate speech is it's based on offense of the listener. A lot of things I say may offend people. Not because I'm meaning to be offensive, but I'm just saying things that shine a light on some place that's uncomfortable within them. And so they could say that I've offended them and that it's hate speech. You see how it goes? Who's to determine what's offensive? Who is to make that determination? And who is the one that defines what is hate speech? Because that definition will vary from individual to individual. So support free speech, even if that means that other people are able to speak out and say things that you disagree with. Support free speech. And then have conversations about the ideas that people say that are hateful. Expose it. The solution isn't more darkness. That would be turning off free speech. The solution is more light, allowing more speech, more authentic speech. But also realize that free speech does you no good unless you make use of it. Start speaking authentically, with integrity. Start questioning within here that which is of integrity and that which is not. Start questioning the ideas within your own mind. How many of those ideas have you inherited unquestioningly from your culture, from your teachers, from your parents, from your friends? How many of those ideas actually hold water? How many of those ideas keep you stuck in a mental rut where you are unable to look at yourself honestly? Or no, it's almost like a cult mentality. You're not able to question the ideology without being considered evil or a heretic. Any mentality like that, any belief system, any ideas like that, they're not coming from love. That's fear. It's very obvious. Just look at it. Just look at it. It's fear. And fear is of darkness. It is not for the most fundamental place within. And to connect with the most fundamental place within, one needs to transcend fear, especially the fear that brings about self-censorship. So if you want to make a positive step forward in your daily life, if you want to feel a little bit stronger, a little bit more comfortable in your skin, do something practical. Speak your mind, or donate to people who will speak honestly, so that you support free speech in any way possible. If you find other ways to support free speech, do so. We are so close to losing free speech right now. We are so close. And there are many ways in which it can be lost. You can see it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all these other things. They're banning people. I don't necessarily agree with the ideas of everybody they've banned, but those people should be able to speak. They should be able to speak, so long as they're not directly inciting violence. In some countries now, first world countries, apparently, I'm not there, that you can be arrested for speaking honestly and openly. Certainly you'll be beat down for it. Or you lose your job for it. I'm not talking about saying bad words or anything that's actually overtly racist or anything. I'm just talking about asking questions. At first, I didn't believe it myself until I started asking questions. And then suddenly I was a Eurocentric, bigoted, racist, white supremacist. How quickly it turned. How quickly. It was amazing how quickly it turned. Multiple conversations, the same pattern. Predictable. At first, I was blown away by it. I didn't predict it. But once I saw that it happened once, and I saw it happen twice, and then I started seeking out these little conversations to see if the same pattern would occur. And again, and again, and again, and again, I was painted as a white, Eurocentric, bigoted, male chauvinistic, yada, 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 racist, when that's the furthest thing from my expression. It's because you can't ask questions. And that is thinking, cult-like thinking. That is cult-like thinking. When you can't ask questions, doesn't matter how big the ideology is, how many people are involved, it doesn't matter if it's an established religion or not. If you can't ask questions, it's cult-like thinking. It's corruption. You can't go into a den of thieves and start asking questions. It's corruption. This is nothing new. This is exactly what the sages of the past have always dealt with. You are now dealing with that. We are now dealing with that. Jesus, almost his entire mission was dealing with this kind of corruption and the den of thieves and the inability to ask questions. Unfortunately, much of the Christian religion has become the den of thieves. Don't mean to be offensive by that. It's just, if you just observe it, you will see it. You saw this with Catholicism just the other day. Big news released about the rapes and molestations of children that have been hidden for the last 18 years or 16 years since 2002. Thousands of kids being molested and taken advantage of, and the bishops in the church knew about it. They knew about it and they hid it. Den of thieves, you can't ask questions. But this is true of many religions. This is true of government. Our government spies on everybody, even though it's against the Constitution, it's illegal. And when asked in Congress, I can't remember who it was, the head of the NSA, when was this? I can't remember his name, but actually lied about it and denied it. And he did not get sent to prison. It wasn't contempt of court, nothing like that. Nothing happened to him. You're not allowed to ask those questions. If you're in a political position strong enough where you can ask the questions and nothing bad happens to you, nothing will happen to the liar. In universities, you can't speak honestly now if it's outside of the established viewpoint. I wonder to what degree science is corrupted by that now. to where if you speak outside the expected viewpoint, you're ostracized or not admitted into the group. Start speaking out. The only way it will change is to start speaking out. Prayer isn't going to make it change. Prayer doesn't mean anything if it doesn't move you to take action in the world. Because if it doesn't mean enough for you to take action in the world, the prayer doesn't mean much. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. Have a wonderful day by shining a light within and little by little shining that light out into the world. Take care. Bye-bye.